Baroness Joanna Shields, Executive Chair of the Responsible AI Future Foundation. May I call you Joanna?
Of course.
Okay, great. So for people who may not know your background, you really have decades in both private sector technology and public policy and government.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of curious how you view this AI moment, and is it different from, say, the advent of the commercial internet as we knew it?
Well, I started my career in 1985, first digital startup. So that's a long journey. So I've seen these waves. I've been through many of them. And I have to say, I've never been more enthusiastic or excited about the opportunities and the potential. And having spent time working on internet harms and crimes, I'm also really cognizant of the risks. But the opportunities are enormous, so we just have to get this right.
We'll talk a bit about those risks and opportunities of AI in practical use, but first, when we talk about responsible AI writ large, what does that mean and what does it look like in practice?
I think we've been talking about responsible AI for a long time. And what we're trying to do at the Responsible AI Future Foundation is not focus on the principles, which I think at least the Western world, everyone's kind of agreed on. And the UN's doing a very good job, on the governance side and with their expert groups that they've just launched. And of course, the Global Partnership on AI, which I chaired for 2 terms, is also focused on this. So we feel like that's kind of reached a state where it's quite mature in terms of what the expectations are. How do we make AI systems that are fair and equitable and that serve humanity and that are create a healthy environment for learning, for governance and various other things. What we're focused on now, and this is really important, is how do we take that into impact? Like, how do we deliver impact in a responsible way? Like, how can we get more governments in the global south to level up to a stage where they're ready to deploy citizen services or a brand new healthcare system or a complete new way of educating, remote communities? Or how do we make sure that agriculture is served through these tremendous tools that can predict weather patterns and, flood and rain and fire and all these things that are really important and data-centric? So how do we deliver AI for countries that respects the culture, the language, the traditions? And how do we ensure that that system works for everybody in all these different countries?
I'm going to pivot in a second to talk a little bit particularly about young people and kids,
Okay.
which I know has also been a huge focus of your work. But first, let's just take a moment and explain what the Responsible AI Future Foundation is and what you hope to do in practice.
What we hope to be is a catalyst for the Global South. We want to take these sovereign AI systems that are being developed in other countries, and we want to find a way to scale and deliver those in partnership with countries and give them a leg up. So this is really important, and I think in many respects, we look at the Global South and people say, wow, it's going to take a long time because it's very expensive to consume. Consuming AI costs a lot of money, it's energy, but I think the opportunity is to rethink how you interact with citizens, rethink how you deliver education, and almost build it from the ground up. Like when I was in tech all these years, I was in big platform companies, and you'd reach a point where a platform was teetering on the edge where you couldn't make software fixes on it anymore, and you had to we used to say, build the stadium in the parking lot, get it ready to go, and then bring the game back to the new stadium or over to the new stadium. And I think we're in that moment now where, countries that have advanced infrastructure around, say, a healthcare system, people are using AI to tweak that now. But imagine if you're a country who can start from scratch and build a system that works for people today. Not the way it worked 10, 20 years ago, and then you're retrofitting that system, but starting from scratch. So what we're trying to do is help countries think through those challenges and actually, develop the solutions. Now, there's an enormous amount of talent in all these countries, and they have their startup ecosystem, they have expertise in all kinds of areas. So how do we help them match those capabilities and build what really works for them?
So that sort of sounds like an optimistic take on what could happen in less developed countries and nations in the global south. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think part of the reason for the Responsible AI Future Foundation is recognizing that if there isn't sort of a way to help people, give them a leg up, that, we don't want an outcome where everyone in the world is not participating equally in this opportunity economy that's coming from AI. We want to make sure that everyone has that capability. And, if there's an organization that can help, illustrate the best practices that are working or support a country to get to that stage, I think that's really important. Honestly, it's in everybody's interest. It's in the big leaders in this industry's interest because, beyond the Western environment, you definitely want, the economic opportunity is enormous.
I want to turn now to the youngest people on the planet. You have spent a large part of your career also focused on protecting kids and young people online. How do you think AI has already impacted them right now?
First of all, AI has been, some of the most advanced AI systems in the world are the ad systems, the ad recommendation systems on social media, which, is the underpinnings of the attention economy. So we can start there. So algorithmic amplification of harms, the exposure of young people to adults interacting with them for sexual purposes, these crimes have been going on for decades, really. And I recognized that early on and founded an organization called the We Protect Global Alliance. And we have over 100 governments now working in partnership to combat online child sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. But it's, even with all the goodwill and all the advocacy and all the work that people are generating in terms of generating awareness of this problem, we've never had more, of a crisis on our hands. You've heard recently about young people interacting with a chatbot and falling in love and leading to disastrous consequences where the AI is instructing them to commit suicide. And we've had cases where kids are being, on an epidemic scale, nudified by their classmates and humiliated. And there's been enormous amounts of mental health crises all around the world, suicides. We've had sextortion is a big problem. So these problems have become much worse with AI. It's been an epidemic.
It's interesting because it sort of speaks to how technology in general can be weaponized, as the way you were describing, but could also be a tool to combat that. Do you find AI is making it easier to find these egregious examples and to track them down?
Yeah, at the UN Center for Robotics and AI in The Hague, there's an organization, it's called UNICRI. There's an organization about AI for safer children. And basically what they do is they put out an RFP and they try to get companies to build tools, investigative tools that law enforcement can use and that parents can use that actually help identify these problems. But again, and they're doing great work. They have hundreds of tools, but we've got to stop, to where we're in the post-harm sanctions sort of investigation stage, because at that point, the child's already in the ambulance on the way to the hospital or worse. What we need to start thinking about is prevention. And that's why I really believe it's time to adopt a universal age signal approach to where every product has to respect that if that age signal comes in and you know the age of that child, you need to deliver an age-appropriate experience. And until we get to that stage, we're always going to be in the post-harm, let's fix this. Like, why should we have to fix it? Why does it have to happen in the first place? So I think we've matured to the stage where we can satisfy the privacy advocates, and I really believe in privacy. And we can now cryptographically and biometrically ensure that we know a child's age, but not deliver any specific information about that child to these providers. So we can do that, so why aren't we doing it?
A new study found that among US 12th graders, seniors in high school, reading skills are now at the lowest they've been since 1992. Math, I think the lowest since 2005. And I used ChatGPT to find some global statistics, actually, and it is true in almost every developed economy. So, and there are factors like screen time and pandemic and, remote education that have contributed to this. But now we have the AI moment. How do you see AI not exacerbating what's already a downward trend? How do we make sure that happens?
I hope it's not a downward trend. I mean, I don't think we have enough data. I think the pandemic had a huge impact on learning, and the kids they're surveying now were the biggest they had the highest level of impact from the pandemic, being stuck at home and, trying to do lessons online. And I think we lost a couple of years there. So we have to level that out and see where we are. For me, AI is, it's this tremendous opportunity, but you do hear that kids are saying that they're not really absorbing the content because the AI is giving them the answers that they need in their research. And I've heard of some techniques where, schools are switching to oral defending. Remember how you defended your dissertation? It's coming back.
I don't have a PhD, Joanna, but thanks for thinking so.
I don't either, but I did in my master's program. But that's a way of ensuring that kids are actually absorbing the information. But when you think about the capabilities of these models and what we had as kids growing up, the fact you had to go to the library and they may not have a book, they may have to order it from another library and it would take 3 or 4 days to get it. And then you got that source and it wasn't what you thought it was. It wasn't good enough. And then you were kind of stuck with it because you ran out of time. You remember that. This is a completely different environment where it's all there. You can pick and choose your sources. So I think we need to train kids in a different way to understand that this is, a new way of thinking. And not to get lazy, but to appreciate that I just had access to all the world's information around this topic. And I am confident that the paper I'm writing is unique and I have put some thought into it. You know what I mean? Like, imagine that. What a great privilege that would be, compared to when we were growing up.
So to conclude, what to you so far has been the most positive development that's come from this AI moment?
After 40 years in tech, I don't mind someone saying, we're going to everything that you've learned up until now has just been training, and now it's going to be like, there's going to be a new way of doing things. I think that's super exciting. We just have to be able to let go of the past, look at what the opportunities are, and rethink and redefine, how we interact with customers, how we interact with citizens, what is the way in which we can do that better. And I think we can do things so much more efficiently, so much more humanely, and that ways in which increase human productivity and agency and put the power back into people. And I think it's just such an exciting time.
Well, that's a great note to end on, and hopefully true in the future. Joanna Shields, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.